Hi everyone, we're broadcasting live from the Infinity Festival in Hollywood. I'm Erin Riley, I'm the advisory board and also a professor and founding director of Texas Immersive Institute at University of Texas at Austin. I'm hosting the podcast here at the show. We're bringing Silicon Valley innovators together with Hollywood storytelling professionals, taking over one city block in the heart of Hollywood. So my first guests today are Nick Urbom and Hampus Wahlin. Welcome. So Nick and Hampus, tell me a little bit about what you're working on right now.
Sure. So very glad to be here at Infinity Festival. Thank you, Erin Riley.
It's good to see you again.
And it's fun to be here with all the UT Austin students that are here. So it's great to see the new talent coming in. My name is Nick Urbom. I'm the CEO and co-founder with Hampus here of Nowbase, which is a platform for creators to more easily showcase what they do and simplify their online presence.
Simplify, new creators, simplify your online presence. I think that's really prevalent today, especially with the pandemic, and we all went online for about 18 months, it was our whole world. Have you seen a new rise of creators that you think you see will be adopting Nowbase?
Absolutely. Here at Infinity Festival, interestingly, we just saw the opening keynote from Barbara Marshall at HP working with NVIDIA and the team over there, et cetera. But one thing that they were talking about this morning was the fact that because of the new tools that are coming out, basically, everyone's becoming a creator. There's really high-end tools that are available for everybody, whether you're doing simple stuff like taking photos on your phone, recording, voice, podcast, whatever it might be, all the way to doing really complex stuff with game engine and visual effects for the most high-end films in Hollywood. And so what we're seeing is that everyone is turning into a creator because the tools are accessible now.
Right, I love it because I always say that the mobile phone in my pocket is now my computer, right?
Yeah.
So I can create anywhere I go at any time. So tell me, describe Nowbase. What are we looking at here?
So Nowbase in many ways is where personal websites meets a social network. It's recognizing the difference and the challenges that comes with having a siloed online presence where, in the past 6 years, people's average number of social accounts has increased by about 3. So, about 6 years ago, people had on average about 3 social accounts. Nowadays, they have about 9 or more. And they will have multiple Instagram accounts for their Finsta, for their various different ventures, and then their personal one where they share things with family and friends. And what this really does is that you're creating a very segmented audience that doesn't really know how to navigate where to find your content. And on the other side of things, you have also seen this side where creators are just recognizing their own value and their own worth, and that they can charge for their content. And this has also made a lot of different platforms recognize that, like Patreon, OnlyFans, and tons of other different, like very niche platforms, Medium or Substack, for example. But the problem is that when you have also these niche platforms that are very content specific or format specific, is that you're creating more segmented audiences. So what we're really trying to recognize is that we need to figure out a way to make it easier to discover and explore creators at large and everything that they're doing. Because creators are multi-hyphenates, and they're not just podcasters, they're not just filmmakers, they are authors, they are podcasters or producers or commercial directors, you name it. So that's really what Nowbase is all about, is just figuring out a way for people to continue to explore content without feeling so siloed out.
I love that. I want to kind of dig into it a little bit from 2 perspectives. One is the social identity, right? You talk about how I think I have 10 social media platforms, right? And I'm feeling a little bit splintered inside, like I have multiple personalities because we always kind of create these different identities on social network.
Correct.
But now you're saying we're going to converge them into one space and create a cohesive identity. What made you do that? And one, do you think people want that kind of cohesive identity?
Yeah, and I'll speak to that from the standpoint that we're also allowing people to choose their audience on Nowbase. So maybe there's a reason that you want a certain audience to see what you do with your rock band, but you don't want them to see what you're doing with your corporate digital design persona.
Or my haiku, my haikus.
Exactly. I want access to all of those. I'll pay for them.
That's an NFT just waiting
Correct,
to happen.
yeah. So what we're doing is we're making it to where I can choose, as the person with the profile on Nowbase, I can choose who sees what. So I can I can engage an audience around my rock band persona, which, by the way, I used to make a living playing drums, so I have a huge rock band persona.
So you should be doing the music for this podcast.
Exactly. But the point is that I can have an audience that's focused on that side of content, and then if I've got a graphic design career that I'm doing professionally or whatever, and I want a certain audience to see that, I can actually choose who sees that or not. I can set permissions for how people see that. But for me, I know that I get to bring everything I do into one space. I don't have to flip 10 social tabs open to manage my different personas online. I can do all of that through Nowbase. It's all in one place.
Okay, that's fascinating because I consider my students, the mix you're saying, right? We're all hybrid roles these days. I heard last night someone called it, we're all slashers. Oh, Brent Bushnell said, I'm looking for slashers, right? I'm like, oh my God, I love that term, right? I'm a slasher, you're a slasher. In my class, I'm having them rethink portfolios. So this is really fascinating to me because I'm like, you don't want to just do a traditional portfolio, just show like one project after the next. How freaking boring is that, right? And we've all done it. But instead, you need to create an experience. It sounds like Nowbase is an experience where I can kind of show my slasher attitude and kind of give them like different paths to experience who I am.
Yes.
Can you describe that a little bit?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just kind of allowing people to shape a better self online, I think, because if you meet someone, you ask what to do, they can tell you their whole life story from start to finish about everything that they have done in terms of the various segments, and it doesn't need to be like super rigid and structured. But the unfortunate reality with visitors and followers and audiences online is that they have an attention span of about 2 seconds at most. And
I'm an educator, I have 5.
Discipline.
And that just
Learn
means
it.
And that means that you have to prove yourself very quickly as a creator. So being able to shape that experience about the self in one coherent way is really what it is all about at the end of the day. And giving people the tools to not feel limited or restricted by what the platform's agenda is, but rather just saying this is an open playground, this is a sandbox, make whatever you want with it, and we will figure out the best ways to communicate this to your audiences.
I love it. My fragmented self is now a full mirror. It's fabulous.
And in terms of fragmenting, I also want to mention that we're making it possible for multiple entities to post on one thread, for instance. So if I'm in a rock band or if I'm in a short film and I want everyone to be able to post photos from being on set today or whatever it might be, or short little videos behind the scenes, you could have 10 people posting on one thread because they're all given permission by someone who establishes that thread to say, these are all people that are involved, they can all post here. And now you've got the ability for groups to communicate to their audiences as well. And so you think about this, especially going back to rock bands, where certain people individually have a presence online. They've got a big Instagram following or whatever it might be, but the band doesn't, or the band has lesser than the lead singer or whatever it might be. You can converge all of those on Nowbase. So they can all still have their independent voices, the singer can still post, but the band can post as a band as well, and you can converge those audiences and bring all those independent followers together into one group following around the artist and the band.
Okay. And what you said that artists are starting to really realize their worth, right? And I'm trying to unpack myself all these new currencies that that I can actually identify my value. Can you tell me a little bit about, are you setting it up to be on the blockchain? Are we actually working towards any type of creative artist can have their own NFTs set up through this?
Yeah, so we are partnering with a company called Live Planet that have created a very exciting way for you to basically mint your own NFTs on the platform. Whether it is your own content that you've uploaded directly to Nowbase, or it's content that you're pulling in that you created elsewhere. Live Planet is doing some really exciting things in regards to. I'm not sure how much I can say, by the way. Like how much?
Right. I feel like we have to be. You have to stand by for the big news because they've got.
Like I'm kind of like excited to talk about
Let's
this, but I realize I have to put the brakes on. We'll mute the mics and tell Erin all about it.
But I will say that they're doing some really creative things with NFTs, and it's not just about minting. It's about the fact that you can mint something you've established, and maybe it has zero value at day one. You've said it's worth $1, but no one's buying it yet. But you can add to that NFT. You can build on it. You can expand it. You can treat it as something that morphs over time. And when we heard what they were doing, we were saying, oh my God, like creators are going to have a heyday with this because there's so many cool things you could do with this to create new types of art, new types of creations. And that in turn is going to create new types of value that you're putting out in these new economies. Again, we were just hearing from an executive from Unity this morning who was talking about the fact, you know what? It was Rick Champagne from NVIDIA. And he was saying that their CEO, Jensen, was giving a speech recently and saying that the digital economies are going to far surpass what we know as our physical commerce and what we do with fiat currencies and cash and what we know as the gold standard or anything else in our economy that we know for how we deal with currencies. But he was making the point that look at a kid playing a video game right now and they just want to buy everything in there that they possibly can.
F the gold standard.
Yeah.
There's a new standard in town.
Yeah, but I love the point he's making that these new economies are going to be massively larger in scale because I think a lot of humans have a hard time conceptualizing that. They think, the sky might fall, the stock market might crash one day, what does it all mean? And online, these new currencies and economies, we're thinking, oh my gosh, like this is a whole new playground and if someone else will take the currency that I have, if that's a Bitcoin or anything else, cool, I can now deal with that person that I want to. I don't need to go talk to the bank or whatever it might be. So we just see that as all a huge opportunity for where creators are going to be playing.
Okay, so knowing that and knowing that you have been a serial entrepreneur, okay, this is not your first rodeo.
No.
And you have really embraced these new creatives. So are you embracing it in your own business model, setting up Nowbase? Because I know that a lot of these kind of decentralized companies are setting up tokens so that other people can buy in and kind of be part of that community. Is that something you've thought of at Nowbase?
We have explored that, and we have very deep discussions about Web 3.0 and where we're going with that over the future. And the way that we see this is that we may have tokens over time, we'll see, but it kind of makes sense because from our standpoint, this is a freemium service. You can set it up, you can bring in all your socials, you can bring in your content and show the world what you're doing. If you want to start monetizing that and you want to put up a paywall or a subscription service or whatever that might look like, that's where you're going to pay for the more premium service on Nowbase for what you're going to do on the platform. However, we realize that over time, it makes perfect sense that if I'm paying to monetize what I do and I'm accepting a certain kind of cryptocurrency or whatever it might be, I might just want to share that with another creator to go collect something from them. So it sets up a real nice business model to tokenize what we're doing. We haven't integrated that we feel like that's going to come down the road for us. It's certainly part of our path and our plan, but for us, it's just about getting the thing up and going, we've got killer beta testers lined up. We've got people from every major platform, every major studio. It's going to be cool. We're going to have some really great people involved with this.
Fantastic. And last question, because you're focused very much on the digital and setting this up in Web 3.0, but let's not forget about the physical, right? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty happy to see you in person here at the Infinity Festival. So how are you, in Nowbase, how are you actually encouraging creators to not just live in that digital space, but to really think about the metaverse as a bridge or as kind of a connection, a convergence between physical and digital?
So one thing that we are doing organically is that my background is in live events and helping to create Infinity Festival and some of these types of things. So we've already talked with influencer agencies and talent agencies and management companies about doing things where we do live events and we bring creators together to talk about, to showcase, to network, to meet people. I met you at a live event at a friend's house. So,
years ago.
I know, it all began.
Hello.
And so we feel like that physical connection, that in-person connection is important. And there's always going to be an opportunity for people to showcase physical elements about what they do. There's all kinds of NFTs that are attached to physical art, etc. That's a whole world that's going on. So we just know from our live event experience that we can bring those kinds of people together. We can be at all the other major conferences, trade shows, film festivals, you name it. We can do our own bespoke events. We love doing that. So we've got all kinds of ideas for how we're going to be bringing creators together and just connecting with them where they already are at, and using Nowbase as a platform for them to connect and showcase what they do.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nick and Hampus from Nowbase. Y'all need to check it out. We're here at the Infinity Festival. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.